computer scan code was meticulous enough to avoid detection, and the blueprint of the building would enable her to make her way to Crompton's fortified third-story lab without any betraying hesitation. Once she got there, it would be up to her to get inside. She had no illusions. The place would have security that would make Fort Knox seem like a public park, but she wasn't about to give up if she got that far. She had in the capacious pocket of her lab coat a handy-dandy device that would take care of any computer-coded lock. She'd only be in trouble if they went in for something as archaic as a deadbolt and key. She'd chosen her time well. Even the most dedicated security freaks and scientific geniuses liked to get home to a hot meal, and it was just after 5:30. Most of the employees were too intent on getting the hell out of the place to notice another white-coated employee, and BBCSI was vast enough for her to simply blend in. When she reached the third floor, she found it deserted. Crompton must have already gone home, and the computerized lock on his unmarked lab door would be child's play for the circumventer one of her friends at the paper had set up for her. Taking a deep breath, she walked to the door of the lab, listening for a moment. Not a sound within, and if she could trust her instincts, which she usually could, the place was empty. Doubtless, there were security cameras all over the place, and she moved closer to the door, the white coat shielding her actions as she quickly, efficiently, tripped the lock and then stepped inside, closing the heavy door silently behind her. Dr. Daniel Crompton stood inside Henry Osborne's plush inner office, impatient as always. "For heaven's sake, Dan, have a seat," Osborne said, using his usual boisterous charm, something he'd perfected during his 20 years in the corporate high life. Daniel was immune to charm, and he hated being called Dan. "I'll stand," he said in his deep voice. "I won't be here long." Osborne didn't let his irritation show, but Daniel knew he was feeling it. "Hell, Dan, you make me feel like a principal calling a recalcitrant schoolboy onto the carpet." "That's your problem," Daniel replied with exquisite rudeness. This time he did manage to ruffle Osborne's cheer. The older man's small eyes darkened for a moment, and then he showed his teeth in a semblance of a smile. "We need results, Dan. When I accepted your funding, I did so on my terms." Daniel found this all quite tedious. But then most of his life outside his lab involved wasting his time with fools like Osborne, and he'd grown inured to it. "You provide the money and leave me alone." "Yes, but we need something, a sign of progress, of good faith. You know, if it were simply up to me, you'd be left to your own timetable. But we've got a board of directors, stockholders, demanding results. General Armstead has been on my tail for a week now about you." Daniel simply shrugged. Osborne got up and came around the desk. He was a trim man in his early 60s, impeccably dressed, impeccably mannered. He was also a snake and a liar. He put his hand on Daniel's shoulder and stared up at him earnestly. "You know what we're after, and you're the man to do it. Half the scientists in the world are trying to create cold fusion, but our money's on you. If anyone's going to do it, you will." Daniel stared at him. "At this point, I'm not particularly interested in cold fusion." "Damn it, how could you not be? I'd heard you'd been concentrating your efforts on physical chemistry, and that's going to get you nowhere. The only way you're going to create cold fusion is with lasers, with—" "If you want to create cold fusion, Osborne, I'm sure you can find space for a lab," Daniel said. Osborne's hands clenched for a moment, then relaxed. "You know, you're damned annoying, Dan. If you weren't so brilliant, someone would probably wring your neck." Daniel looked down at him. "They could try. We need some results, Dan. At least a preliminary report. I trust you." "If you trust me, why do you need a preliminary report?" "I said I trust you. I'm just the lowly CEO. Armstead's head of the board of directors, and after spending 30 years in the Army, he's used to having his orders obeyed."